I was invited by a group of young people that had these thematic evenings in Amsterdam where they were discussing like societal issues, and one of them was social media and mental health. And I was there as a representative from public spaces, and it was really interesting because these youngsters, they had a really different view on the internet than I had.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fireside Fetty episode. I forgot to write it down. 87, I think. Fireside Fetty is a show within the Fediverse. Is a show. Yeah, it is within the Fediverse about people within the Fediverse as well. If you're hearing this, you are part of the Fediverse. With me today, and I'm very excited and interested in getting to know him, is Bjorn W. Because I'm not going to try, as you said. Bjorn lives in the Netherlands, EU, works as self-employed tech consultant and software developer, likes to tinker, has way too many interests. But I found this on your public spaces page, I guess you would call it, where you've been helping organizations for over 15 years to realize ideas and ambitions using open source software development, open standards, and interaction design. In doing so, he strives for affordable, secure, accessible, user-friendly, privacy-friendly, sovereign, and sustainable solutions. I love all of those. Bjorn has long been an advocate for fair copyright laws and greater privacy, not only in his professional work, but also in his volunteer roles as board member of the Open Netherlands Association, NLUUG, and as chapter lead of Creative Commons Netherlands. And Bjorn actively promotes the practical implementation of public values. And since 2021, he is involved with public spaces as a freelancer. Bjorn, thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to Fireside Fetty.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it doesn't really sound like pretentious or so if you like.
No.
If you speak it out loud, these bios, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But maybe the most important part is that, and you missed that, is that I always carry a cat around on my shoulders on my photos.
You always carry a cat around on your shoulders in your photos. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
You do have a cat on your shoulders.
I guess.
Who is the cat?
The cat is Tex as in Texas. So the cat has this thing that at certain points in time it just jumps towards you in a loving embrace and wants to sit on your shoulder.
Okay. We'll definitely have to learn more about Tex because, I mean, the internet's made for cats, regardless of what people say. But before we get to Tex, how did you get to where you're at today? Because I think you're kind of living a dream that a lot of us free and open source nerds want to do, right? Everything that you said you wanted is things that a lot of us believe in ideally. So if you've been able to turn it into a business and survive, which I think you've survived, it looks like you have, or this is a very long distance phone call. So how did you get to where you're at today?
Oh wow, where to start? Let's see. So my background is in interaction design. So I was educated as an interaction designer. That was like years ago, and during the time, I noticed that all the things that I was thinking about as an interaction designer, I kind of needed to know more. I needed to know how to program, for instance, or I needed to know how to put the things that I thought of as conceptually and afterwards programmed. I needed to do some sysadmin. So in the end, what happened is I more or less snowballed towards doing all these kind of things. So from interaction design towards lots of programming, towards the sysadmin part of projects, and basically doing projects from A to Z. And during that period of time that I was working on these kind of things, I noticed that a lot of technology is being used as a solution, but it's not really the solution. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people that are in tech are probably aware of this, and even outside of tech as well. So after a while, I noticed that I had these projects and I was working for these clients, and I was telling them, like, hey, you can pay me for this project, but to be honest, it's not the solution. Maybe if you do that, this and that, that could help. But I'm at the end of the pipeline, so to speak. So I was hired to build something. So there wasn't really that much.
Yep.
I would say they were listening to me, but yeah, that's a bit late. We're already committed to building this project. So in 2021, I discovered public spaces. They were keep doing an conference, which we're doing this year as well, by the way, on 4th and 5th and 6th of June.
Yep.
And during that conference, I was looking at people and I was like, why are they using these tools? They are against big tech, but they're using tools that are like, hey, have you read this privacy policy? So I got into contact with some of them. And at the beginning, they thought, hey, this is some kind of internet troll. But then some people that knew me from the things that I've been doing in the Netherlands, they
Yeah.
were like, no, no, this guy is serious and he's constructive. So just have a chat. So we got into contact, and in the end, one of the board members at that time, Geert-Jan, we had some really good conversations, and he said to me, well, if you know how to do this kind of stuff, why don't you join us? So that's how I ended up working for Public Spaces. Bless you. So that's yeah. So I more or less rolled into this connection with Public Spaces, and I've been helping them since 2021.
Okay. No, and that's great. And like, again, being in IT, a lot of times it's like, why are we using this? It's like, because the guy up there said we were using it. It's like, well, what about this other thing? And most businesses really aren't open to that, right? So even us advocates of the Fediverse, a lot of people are like, well, I still use Zoom because it's a tool that exists and I don't have time to replace it, right? Uh, so it's nice to hear that open spaces was so receptive.
Public Spaces,
Public spaces. What did I say?
open spaces,
Open. No,
which is also nice, but
public spaces. It's nice to hear that public spaces was so receptive to it. So what types
yeah.
of what types of projects did you work with them to get them transitioned out of American big tech?
Well, together with my colleague Toon, who's been doing the technical stuff, I've been mostly focused on helping civil and civic society to move away from big tech and explaining to them what the issues are, like the raising the awareness, which was quite a hard sell before January 20th, 2025.
Hmm?
Afterwards, it became very easy.
Why? What possibly could have happened in January
I
of
don't know.
2025, Bjorn?
I don't know. There was some kind of an election, I guess, in some country somewhere, and they elected somebody who was interesting for the geopolitical situation, and that made a lot of people aware of their, I would say, vulnerabilities
Yep.
regarding digital technology. And
And
yeah,
and entire organizations all of a sudden realizing, oh shit, if they can block a UN director's Microsoft account, they'll do it to anyone.
yes, and especially the last thing that happened that really, uh, I would say, stirred the pot a lot in Europe and the Netherlands was the whole Greenland thing. So I know
Interesting.
that in Denmark you have the Denmark Skifte. I'm not Danish, but I'm probably butchering their language now. But it's something like Denmark is changing or is moving away from big tech,
Hmm.
and that's like a national thing going on.
Yep.
And you see that in a lot of places in Europe now, and in the
Interesting.
Netherlands as well. So the raising awareness, that was usually my that was, I would say, 80% of my job at that time. And my colleague Tone and I were discussing these kind of things for the conference, like how can we show people that you can use all these other interesting technologies, open source, open standards, and still do a conference. So all credit goes to Tone in that direction for making sure that we can use PeerTube for these kind of things, and that we have our website, and we've been experimenting with pre-talks some time ago. So in that case, we try to drink our own champagne, and sometimes it's a bit sour, sometimes it's very sweet. That's how it goes with using open source software, and we try to do that so that we can also explain to the organizations that are currently still feeling the friction between the values of big tech, which used to be, like, I would say, shareholder value and very profit oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It has become, in certain cases, an ideological kind of thing that really doesn't align with the values of a lot of civil and civic organizations. So if you're a public broadcaster, um, using X, for instance, is really, I would say, frowned upon, at least, considering that you're basically swimming in a sewer of disinformation and all these kinds of stuff.
And
This,
if
yeah.
you don't play that game, you're not going to get boosted. And public institutions, in most places, legally aren't allowed to play that game, right? Like, they're held to a different standard. They can't just go and post, "You wouldn't believe what Donald Trump said," in 5 posts. Like, we all know that's true too, but they have to play by different rules, and they can't create those even more sensationalized headlines. Right? And I
Yeah,
imagine.
and it's not just media. It's like the friction. Like, if you're a library and you're using these platforms, or most of them have transitioned away from these kind of X is really not being used that much anymore. But
Yeah.
except for, like, journalism in the Netherlands still is using it because our politicians are still using it, which is really, really absurd. So you can have politicians saying, we really need to strive towards digital sovereignty, digital autonomy,
On X.
depending who you. And then they're saying that the next words are on X. That's really a bit strange. Let's put it that way. But I recognize the friction. Like you said, there is a friction between they need to reach their
Mm-hmm.
audience,
Yep.
and they still believe that there is a part of their constituents are still active on X.
Right.
I personally have my doubts about that, but the same goes for Meta with Facebook, for instance.
Yes.
Um, so there's always this friction between these different organizations, and what we're really striving towards is saying, okay, we're not saying that much as you need to stop with these kind of platforms, although we really would like them to stop,
Yeah.
but at least provide different places where people can get the news, get the information from the library, get the information from the politicians, without having to resort to a platform in control by billionaire Brolaki, and where you can say, okay, we have a place where you don't need to have an account. Like, I don't know, a website, maybe your own website, these kind of
Yeah.
discussions. And to me it feels we're going, hopefully, back to the beginning of the internet. Like, okay, you can just have a website, put it there, and use the indie web posse, like publish on site, syndicate
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere strategy, where you're using these other platforms as like for window shopping, basically.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that none of the big techs are interested in doing that too. And it's interesting how you say, just have a website. But we've gotten so far away from that because these communal systems work really well with talking to people. Having a website with just mountains of text usually is not as interactable, but also people are now used to these formats and these platforms. So it's interesting to me. Do you feel that before January 1st, 2025, was there any kind of move as well? Because the big one that everyone always talks about to me is when Elon Musk bought Twitter, and people all of a sudden realized this is not what we thought it was. And it seems like 2025 has kind of pushed that over the bounds for the EU. But the thing that actually makes me most interested is Greenland specifically. So can you give me information on how you feel there? On
Yeah, I think the whole social media is just one tiny bit of the whole discussion about digital sovereignty when we're talking about
Mhm.
countries and digital autonomy when we're talking about individuals. Um, there became an awareness that was, I would say, founded in the facts. Whereas before January 20th, it was basically people like me, and there's plenty of people around saying, hey, do you know how much you're trusting these um, monopolists
Yeah.
in taking care of your data, in taking care of your technology and your services, and don't put all your eggs in one basket, basically.
Hmm.
But that's a hard sell. If you're saying, imagine there might come a time when these organizations, these big organizations, Microsoft or Google, and they might not be so, I would say, like the slogan that they use with Google, don't be evil. I mean,
No,
they
that the
removed the
slogan
slogan.
yeah.
They removed the slogan. I mean, doesn't that like mean something? So, and that's still a hard sell. If you're a big organization, you're not going to move away from Microsoft because this really weird tech consultant guy is telling you Microsoft might be doing stuff that you don't want to happen or might be unsafe. Whereas we know that there have been like Chinese hackers in Microsoft's cloud services for I don't know how many days, weeks, months. We don't know.
Yeah.
So there's this idea of we don't want to take we don't want to deal with technology in an organization, civil society, civic
Right.
society, commercial organizations,
Yep.
doesn't matter.
Yep.
Technology is something that you would like to place outside of your company. You don't want to have this responsibility.
Hmm.
Whereas I would say that this responsibility is part of your company. Without IT, you don't have a company. So it's like the common thread in
Yeah.
your whole organization. And that
Yeah.
goes for civil and civic society as well. So there was already some understanding of this, I would say, situation before 20th of January. Like Public
Hmm.
Spaces was, I think, founded in 2018, around
Okay.
that period. Um, but it was still like it was I would say the front runners of the organizations that were saying, okay, we feel that there's a friction. We know that we need to do something with it, but we don't know exactly how to act on it and where to start. And that's
Right.
also one of the things that we started was we're a bit of the funny names, and in Dutch it's even funnier. But this name is called the Digital Power Wash. So the Digital Power Wash, imagine yourself having a kitchen and you need to have piles and piles of plates and you need to clean them.
Yeah.
Well, that process of cleaning, well, we've made a questionnaire for assessing how well aligned are the values, and assuming that you have the same values as public spaces, how well aligned are your values with the public spaces manifest, and that gives you sort of a benchmark of where are you standing now. So if you use Facebook and you go through the whole assessment, all these questions, you get a score, and you see at the score, okay, this is not scoring that well. It's not well aligned. So that gives you a very tangible way of measuring these abstract values, basically, that public space is using.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about public spaces without actually explaining what it is. So
Yeah.
maybe
Please.
I should take the time to do that.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
Public Spaces is a small Dutch foundation. I work part time as a freelancer for them, and we're roughly, I think now, three people that are part of like the core and our and employees and a director. And there's a circle around it with freelancers like myself and my colleague Tone that I mentioned.
Hmm.
And our goal is to work on a digital ecosystem, an internet, as you would say, that is built upon public values that are in our manifest. And thus far, Public Spaces has very much the focus on the Netherlands, but we also work with European partners. And the funny thing is, next that we're a small foundation, we're also a coalition of roughly 40 civil and civic society organizations like public broadcasters, libraries, universities. I think Babette, one of your interviews
Mhm.
before mine, she mentioned SURF, like the IT corporation in the Netherlands that
Yeah.
takes care of that. It's
Okay.
also a partner of public spaces.
Oh.
The Royal Library is also a part of public spaces. And all these organizations have this same feeling of this friction with big tech, that they have different values. And they need to uphold these values because that's part of what they are and why they exist. And what we try to do and focus on is not so much on lobbying or making big tech behave better, but we're really much on the how can you use all the other stuff that's already out there to do the things that you want to do and keep as much of the values that you uh, hold dear. And that's basically what we're focusing on. So let's focus on the good things, and let's focus on all these alternatives that are already out there, and make these better. And Yeah, that's been our focus. And the digital power wash was one of the methods that we used to see. Okay, it's a benchmark. Where are we standing now with our values? And using these kind of tools, you can make these very abstract values very tangible and operational in your organization. And we're focused on civic and civil society, and not so much on individuals.
This See, because looking at something like this, for me, like this is kind of a template of something like I would like to get involved with, or kind of, start something similar in the U.S. because it doesn't. I don't want everyone. I don't need everyone, but like-minded folks that come together. How does your coalition work? I know there's a page. I'm trying to find it right now to show all the folks that are in the coalition, but how does that? How do you have that designed and organized and things that works together?
That's always a work in progress, I would say, because you have these organizations and they differ in size and they differ in sector. So, for instance, there's organizations that are working on healthcare, but there's also organizations that are the Dutch public broadcasters. Those are
Hmm.
like completely different worlds, but they try to find overlaps where they can help each other and exchange information and knowledge on how to use these alternatives or how to move away from big tech. Um, Let
Okay.
me see if I can find a page for you to show you the organizations,
Yeah, no, I,
because
I
that's
actually I just found it, publicspaces.net
okay.
slash partners.
Yeah.
And so you folks are acting like the glue in order to someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I need a video streaming platform." And you say, "Okay, well that's, we've done PeerTube and we can hook you up with someone that also has done it." Is that kind of the idea?
Yes, and we also initiate those kind of projects ourselves. So, for instance, for video, we started publicvideo.nl,
Yeah.
which is an initiative where organizations can, like a sandbox, they can play with PeerTube and experience what PeerTube
Mm-hmm.
can do for them. Um, that's the type of things that we want to promote as well, to experiment with these kind of things. And for some organizations, it's really difficult because they don't have any technical people anymore in their organization.
Okay.
So even if they wanted to experiment, they first need to find somebody that sets up the experimentation stuff for them. So by providing a peer tube where they can just, without having to do anything like having to hire somebody or whatever, they can just say, okay, we want to try it. And they can try and they can play with it and they can experience if it really works for their purpose. And I think that's really important for these organizations, like a really low threshold to
Yeah.
engage with these
Yep.
alternatives.
Nope, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here as well. I have my own PeerTube, and I want to use it as a point of a proof of concept for people and say, yeah, you can run it too. But you have a lot of there's a lot of supporters. There's a lot of sponsors, supporting partners, and then there's a lot of folks in the coalition. how when you started in 2021, a couple years after the public spaces had started, were there already this many people involved? How did you get people involved, and how, if someone's watching this, hearing this, or knows someone interested, how would someone get involved today?
Okay. Uh, well, the focus is on these organizations, and a lot of these organizations have already heard from us because we're doing also presentations, and we're working together with partners like Waag Future Lab in Amsterdam, or working together with other organizations. For instance, we did a campaign. It's called "Make Make Social Social Again," which we did with also with an art organization, Noorderlicht in Groningen. So it's like a wildfire, I would say, and word of mouth, and especially now with the situation that we described before.
Yeah.
Um, there's also organizations that are actively seeking these kind of solutions, and seeking organizations that can help them. And what I find very interesting is one of the things that we've been working on quite recently is there's been some more of health oriented organizations. So, for instance, mental health organizations that are now working together collectively in a project called the Next Socials, where they want to focus on how can we provide digital spaces where people can uh, get, talk with each other, or exchange experiences in a safe environment, um, using technology that allows these kind of interactions. So if you would do something like this on a public forum, that might not work as well, because there
Right.
might be people going into this forum, and that changes the whole atmosphere. So, for instance, there was a project called Pop-ups, and Pop-ups is now a project that started at the Radboud University, where they look at how can we provide a space like this where you use certain attributes from people. For instance, let's say it's only allowed for people above 21 to join this group, and they need to
Mm-hmm.
live near in a certain area in New York.
Okay.
And based on these attributes, you can say you can get access or not. And there's now this discussion about ages, like age and social media.
Right.
A similar system could be used. I'm not going into if this is a good idea or a bad idea, because that's like a whole episode in itself. But you can use these
Yeah.
attributes in such a way that um, if you're the provider of this service, you don't know my age. You just know he's he's been vetted, and he's allowed to continue,
Okay.
which is a very privacy safe way of dealing with these kind of things. But that's like a higher threshold because you want to have more safety involved. If you want to have like
Mhm.
a book reading club, that's also a possibility, but then something like pop-ups might be like overkill. Then you might go into something else. And in this case, the mental health organizations are working together with, I think, with Bonfire, if I'm not mistaken, to see what they can do and find a balance between like the easiness of a book reading club, where you basically go in and, hey, I've read the book, and the safety of the pop-ups kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. That's yeah, they're working on that at this moment.
That's I love this. Again, I feel like the US, because we have the big tech control, and we haven't been the ones faced with, let's be honest, what is essentially an online extinction level event if you don't play by our rules, which kind of woke everyone up. Like, people here, everyone is hearing about this for the first time here. Whereas there, it seems like a lot of these places have realized how vulnerable they are and are like, no, we not only need to take what they have and replace it, but we don't want it to look like exactly what it looks like now, because they're still not beholden to us, right? Like, someone can come in the next day and purchase the next EU big social thing, where medical systems and libraries and researchers, they've been down that route, and we know where it ends, right? And that's amazing to hear how much further along the conversation is than the folks I'm talking to, which is like, I have to be on Instagram. There's nothing else. It's like, there is.
Well, the same is still also applies to the Netherlands as well. I mean,
Yeah.
these worlds exist next to each other,
Yeah.
and I would say that there's also still there's the risk of going overboard. I would say there's also the risk of an opportunity. I would say for certain people to say, okay, we don't want to have US big tech. We don't want
Mm-hmm.
to have China's big tech.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have European alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this implicit silence, like European is good, which is really, really stupid and xenophobe. Um, and it provides an opportunity for people to create our own big tech. Let's
Yeah.
have Dutch big tech. Let's have German big tech. Let's have European big tech.
Yeah.
So there are still these forces also here that are using this as an opportunity to create their own to get more power and to see if they can create their own big tech.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to be still very much aware of this risk and explain to people it's not about being European, it's not about being US, it's not about being Chinese or whatever.
Right.
It's about open standards, open source, and governance models that allow people to have a democratic voice in how these kind of platforms and services are operated. And if there are laws that prevent us from doing these kind of things, for instance, in the US, you have the visa that has an influence on foreigners, that allows us to, or actually provides us with saying, hey, this is the problem. If this law applies to us, that means that
Yeah.
is in conflict with our privacy laws, and that provides opportunity for change.
Well, and I've told other people, like, big tech, it's not sustainable in a world. All the internet, the Twitter, microblogging, whatever you want to call it, it's all basic forms of communication that everyone should have a right to. Your government has a right to regulate how that's used, I think, but these laws have been put in place. I recently watched Section 230 panel. And it's interesting that Section 230 in the United States basically says that the platform operator is not liable for what their end users say. And I think you're around the same age I am. Of this was of huge concern, because if one person comes onto a platform and says something, who's liable, who's responsible? And the way that it was looked at was like, well, free speech. We have to have this for free speech. But then the big tech companies have used it to suppress speech and still protect themselves. So they get all the benefit and we take all the punishment for it. And we see that with things like Twitter, right? And your values there in the EU might not match up to mine. So I see big tech as an impossibility on a world level scale. And I love that you have folks that are trying to use the different platforms. And you said, sometimes you find that one thing doesn't work. And I would imagine, so we call that dog fooding, at least what I've heard is you use the tools that you're trying to sell so that you can help understand
Yeah.
them. Is it the right tool for the right job? But also, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I'm going to ask, if there is a tool that doesn't exist that someone needs, or if there's a tool that kind of fits or it's buggy, do then the partners, the coalition, sponsors, whatever, work together to help resolve that? Like, do you actively
In an
invest?
ideal, yeah, in an ideal world, that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, it works like this, but the whole, collectiveness among people is a lot easier than collectiveness among organizations, because organizations are these intangible entities without without any moral, I would say,
Hmm.
neither positive, neither negative. But we as people have morals
Yep.
and values. So it's really hard for an organization, and especially for larger organizations, to, I would say, collectively stand on the barricades and work towards a change and collectively change the software that they're using. Like I mentioned, some of these
Yes.
organizations don't even have technical people
Right.
around
Right. Right.
anymore. So what we try to do is take this into account with these projects that we do. And I know that one of the projects that I've involved with was Public Video, the PeerTube project. And
Hmm.
I know that we had some suggestions for Framasoft, and I believe that we also had some budget for them to fix this. Um, my colleague Pepijn has been working on that part. So that's the ideal world, that we can collectively and still autonomously work together. But yeah, we're not there yet.
We're getting there, and I think that's kind of my goal too. And it's interesting you say, yeah, businesses, companies have no moral obligation. They get that from the people that create them, that
Yes.
run them. But and everyone has to remember too, even the morals coming out of a company can change tomorrow, right? You change leadership, and that can change. I've seen that happen with places like Red Hat. But so you're talking about public spaces, right? Video.publicspaces.net,
No, this one is a publicvideo.nl.
publicvideo.nl.
And that's a smaller project. Videos.publicspaces.net is our PeerTube instance where we
Mm-hmm.
put also our videos online.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned companies, and that's also an interesting difference between, I would say, the perspectives. In the Netherlands and in Europe, you have a distinction between, I would say, the market and these type of organizations, the businesses, and you have organizations that are not a business, like a foundation or a collective or a collective organizational form that have different values. So you can have a civil organization can have completely different values, and even
Yes.
if leadership changes, they still need to uphold these kind of these values. I'm not saying that it always works like that in practice, but in theory, it should work like that. Um, because there are laws around these kind of things. A public broadcaster has a different role than a commercial broadcaster, and
Yeah. That's good.
gets money from a different angle, and therefore their rules are different for both of them. They have different rules um, in how they operate. So there's been I would say a bit more distinction, but I'm not an expert on the
Well,
US, so
yeah. And
but I have the feeling that that's a difference.
but even in the US, I would assume there too, a business can change their classification. You can go from a private company to a public company back to a private company, and with that it changes. Or
Yeah, you're right. We've seen that with OpenAI, for instance. That was
that
supposedly a
was literally
foundation.
what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. That would be. I think it would be quite hard. I'm not sure actually, but I think it would be quite hard to do a similar thing in the Netherlands.
Okay.
You basically have to tear down probably the foundation and build up a corporate entity. Maybe it can. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and the way that I got connected to you was I had heard about public spaces. I reached out to public spaces, uh, and you and I have been talking, but I wanted to really highlight because public spaces is having a conference coming up, right? And it is
Yes.
June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And
Yes.
what happens at the conference?
Okay. So the conference, the fourth is, I would say, like a pre-conference day. So the main event is on the 5th, and the 6th is geared towards the general audience, like the general population, people that live in Amsterdam that might never have heard about Fediverse or anything like this, and drop in basically. But the main event for, I would say, professionals and experts and people very into these kind of topics.
Hmm.
Then Friday the 5th is like the day to be in Amsterdam in Pakhuis de Zwijger. And what we do is we it's always quite hard to explain because we're not a tech conference, but we're also not a business conference, and we're also not an academic conference, but we're basically everything in between and a festival kind of feeling. So like the audience there is policymakers, open source hackers, librarians, people working in culture or media sector, artists, and everybody is talking with everybody basically. And we try to cross over all these different types of sectors and organizations so that they can learn from each other. And there's also plenty of people that go there on an individual basis because they are very interested in this topic. And that makes it a bit hard also for our speakers or panelists to say, okay, this is your target audience. It's like, yeah, mm, everybody who's very interested in this stuff. So yeah, and the only thing that I really would like to change, but it's really hard, I've noticed, is that diversity in age. So, for instance, I would
Mm.
say that I would like to have more young people, like in their 20s, go to these kind of things and get involved in these kind of things, or the other way around,
Yeah.
get us old white guys involved with people in the 20s and like grandfather tells about the history of the internet and exchange the thoughts. I had an encounter in the beginning in 2025 where I was invited by a group of young people that had these thematic evenings in Amsterdam where they were discussing like societal issues, and one of them was social media and mental health. And I was there as a representative from public spaces, and it was really interesting because these youngsters, they had a really different view on the internet than I had. I still had this view of you don't have to do these kind of things, but they really made me see different. They have a different perspective, and
No,
they showed that the peer pressure and these kind of things is like it's a big problem.
no, and that's it again. Like, so my tattoo artist, she made me feel so old when they were talking about like some retro cartoon or something, and I mentioned, oh yeah, I watched that. You guys watched that, and they're like, well, my dad watched that. I'm like, ugh, but and when I asked her about like her art, and she said, you have to be on Instagram. She's like, everyone I know hates it, but you
Yeah.
have to be there because that's where you get people to look. And it's like, there are other things to exist. And they're like, no, she didn't know. And I agree. The way that they interact and use things is much different than ours. And we look at it as nostalgia, this free open web. And there were lots of bad points, but it was not what we have now. And there's bad and good, and being able to talk about that, I think is super powerful. And I am very uh, uh, hopeful because again, in the U.S. we don't really see too much going on yet. I'm hoping that changes, but there are numerous conferences right out there now. Fedi forums coming up. There's public spaces. Folks have been doing stuff at FOSDEM, Chaos Computer Club. There's FediCon in Canada, and the thing that I love
Chaos.
about this, yeah, Chaos Community, Chaos. What is it? Chaos Computer Club.
Yeah, Chaos Computer Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all of these places are not only having people come talk, but like FOSDEM, Andy Piper was like, 2 years ago, we had one person talking about it. And then last year, we had a couple of presentations. And this year, we have an entire track. So people are interested. They want this to become a thing. And it's growing. And you mentioned 20-year-olds. And I think it's only a matter of time. But like I talked to Tommy, right? And Tommy said he's very excited and he's going to bring lots of curious folks in their 20s. They're people are just sick and tired of the current way, but people don't know better. And that's what we need. We need folks like yourself willing to talk to younger folks, and Tommy to bring friends, and just get people interested, because again, on an open platform, anyone can build anything. And
Yeah, providing that you have the resources and the knowledge. So
right.
we don't
Yes.
we need to keep that in mind as well, because if we look back at the nostalgia part, when I look at my childhood, it was just a very coincidence that I stumbled upon computers, because we didn't have one at home. Uh, I
Oh
I
wow.
I I played at a friend's house on the computer, and that triggered this curiosity into this
Yep.
machine. And I did worked on a paper round to buy my own secondhand computer. You know, these kind of things. So
Oh wow.
this is for youngsters now. We can learn a lot from them as well. So it goes both ways. And like you said, we have to be careful not to be like look at it with rose tinted glasses at the past. There've been plenty of stuff that's been happening on the internet that is also not okay, regardless of big tech.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're seeing now is with the in Germany you have the Digital Independence Day, for instance. That's an interesting stuff. They are really good working on making it very simple. You have these recipes where you can say, okay, I'm now using and I want to move to something else. That's
Yeah.
on the individual level. It's really nice because it's not talking to you about values. It's not talking to you about efficiency or business kind of stuff. No, it's just like, hey, you want to try something else? This might be interesting. And with Doeidag, we're doing the same in the Netherlands. And Doei means something like buy. So what we're saying is buy big tech, and then we celebrate all the opportunities that we have without big tech.
Okay.
Um, and if you see all these initiatives, like on the individual scale and on the organizational scale, we need to keep in mind that this is not about the geopolitical thing, because that helped us with the raising awareness.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful that this is not becoming like a our big tech first or our tech first. It has to be about these exchanges, collaboration, democratic values,
Mm-hmm.
like the opportunities to gather around, collectively say, we want to change this service or this application in a different direction as clients, as constituents, as
Yep.
people.
Let's not make the same
um,
mistakes.
yes, so
Yep.
it's and I'm really hammering on this point, like open source, open standards,
Yep.
governance models
I,
that allow these democratic processes.
I've told everyone too that, like, I'll help build it for you. I'll build it for you. I'll teach it for you. It is not mine. None of it is mine. I will never have my business become the next Google, because I think that is morally reprehensible. Like I
Yes.
I'm happy to help everyone do anything, but at the end of the day, it is all yours. It is your site, it is your data, it is your videos. You decide what you do with it, because yeah, this can't go on. This is before we move on to the quiz, Tommy was asking about your mixer, or is it a synth in the background to back right? Well, I guess it would be to me. It's that's yes, that.
Yeah, there.
What
Yeah,
is that?
it's a very old sound mixer, and I like to tinker with old and weird synthesizers as well. Mostly weird. So let's see if we can grab one
Weird is
here.
just another word for unique.
Yeah, esoteric, and let's see if I can show it. This is the Plinky, for instance. That's a really nice kind of thing. It sounds always a bit sad, a bit melancholic. It's a nice one.
All right.
Let's see if I can show you another one. Oh, now you've done it.
I just like looking at all the tactile knobs and levers that you push. We don't
Oh
get
yeah,
that anymore.
and I like that so much because it takes me away from the computer. And I combine these kind of soundscape kind of things and weird ambient tracks with public domain footage. Like you mentioned in the intro,
Oh,
I
awesome.
was chapter lead of Creative Commons, and I've been many years I've been involved with the I would say open things like open culture, open content, free
Yep.
culture.
Yep.
So I've been involved with Creative Commons in the Netherlands since I would say more or less the beginning in the Netherlands, and been in the US at Creative Commons headquarters and stuff like that. But I didn't do that much anymore with like the results, like the fruits of the labor. And then I decided, like a few years back, I've been working so hard on enabling this kind of stuff, but I'm actually not doing it myself anymore because I was so involved with making sure that stuff became public domain, or that the Creative Commons licenses work.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays I'm really just like, oh, there's so much interesting stuff on Internet Archive, and it's CC licensed. Or
Yeah.
hey, there's some stuff still on Flickr on these photos. Oh, that's cool. So now I try to use these kind of stuff and make my own videos as well. So I'm using MakerTube to put up some of my stuff, and it's usually quite weird, but hey, I like it, and it's
Yeah.
my hobby. So who cares?
Yeah. All right. And I wish I could keep
So,
talking to you about all that, but we're coming up to the end.
oh yeah.
So, uh, now for the real reason I asked Bjorn here is to give him the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime. Our prize today is an item that cannot be named and disappears if it is named. Are you ready for the quiz, Bjorn?
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Okay. Question 1. Favorite movie? And I'll give you bonus points if it's Spaceballs, because my favorite movie is Spaceballs. So, but what is your favorite movie?
Oh, Spaceballs is indeed in the top 5, but in this case, number 1 is Office Space.
Okay, that is a movie that as you get older starts to age like a fine wine. It is.
Oh, definitely, and sometimes it even hurts quite a lot, like a hangover from the
Yeah.
fine wine.
PC load letter. What the fuck does that mean?
Yes,
I love that
yes,
part.
indeed. But you
First
gotta
time
put
I
up
saw
more
that in
flair.
reality. I loved it. So good. Sorry.
But you need more flair, Anthony. More flair.
But I have the minimum amount of flair.
That's
Okay.
true, but
I
we
love that
expect
manager.
a bit more.
Those
Oh, yeah, great.
managers are so good too. It's like,
Yeah,
just
the
say what you
TPS
want.
reports.
Just
The
say what you
TPS
want.
reports,
Just
man.
instead of like trying to pressure people, just say what you want. Anyway, next question.
Yeah.
Stroop waffles, apple tart, or panacoque?
Oh wow. Ooh. Yeah, I'm going for the apple tart. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Why the apple tart?
Because it's you can make so many variations about it. You know, like putting some custard inside, putting some I don't know, pecan pie kind of things, like walnuts. Oh yeah, maybe some pears. Just go full on experimental. Yeah, apple tart it is.
All right. Okay. Next question. Amsterdam, Rotterdam, or Texel? How you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going for Texel. Yeah,
Why
I'm more
Texel?
of I'm more of a nature guy. And Amsterdam will be our fishing grounds in a few years, given climate change and stuff like that.
Jesus.
Same is probably for Rotterdam, and Texel is already an island, so yeah, they have some experience living near to the water.
I saw pictures of it and it looks stunning. Oh, and of course it
Yeah,
takes me right to Pinterest. Screw you, Pinterest.
you have
Trying to.
the sheep over there with the wool.
Sorry, I'm trying to show it. Here we go. Yeah, that looks very beautiful and peaceful. Excellent answer. All right. Next question. What does an alternate universe Bjorn do?
Oh wow. Ooh. It depends. Are we going like evil alternate universe, or are we going like no, it's fine kind of alternate universe?
It could be anything you want.
Oh wow. Well, for the good alternative universe, I think I would have paid more attention at the humanities part, instead of being focused so much on like, hey, I like computers. Um, I used to had this discussion in my head: do I want to continue with computers, or do I want to become a veterinarian? And I decided I go with computers.
Yeah.
But in the end, in the alternative universe, I might have gone in a slightly different route and become something in the social humanities. I don't know what. And in the evil version, I might have become the guy that wrote, I don't know, some kind of virus, or became a big tech mogul or something like really evil, the Mark Zuckerberg of the Netherlands or something like that. You know, these kind of things happen always in these series. I like these kind of weird stuff.
All right. Those are good answers. Well, I don't know if you know, but I have an alternate universe phone here. It often changes from week to week. This week it is who is a John Mastodon sticker that I got from Andy Piper. And when I called up an alternate universe Bjorn, he says he works in public spaces. I asked him to define that, and he said he just goes outside and just lets everyone know he's working. So neither good nor evil, I would imagine, but is what it is.
That might even be the best one. And then going to Tessel, just sitting there in the public space.
Yeah. All right. Next question is blue, gold, or white?
Oh, wow. Where do you come up with these? Why golden and why blue and white?
Interesting question. I was really struggling today. Normally I go with flags, but I'm kind of tired of red, white, and blue because so many flags are red, white, and blue that I actually looked up. What was it? The Netherlands crest, I think it was, which is, yeah, the Netherlands crest, which has gold lions on it and a gold crown, and then blue, or maybe yellow if you call it yellow, but I think it's gold. And then, white sword.
I think I'll go with the lions because as a cat person, I think that's the closest to my heart. Then,
So gold?
Yeah, yeah. Then it will be gold. That's
okay.
But it depends on the crest. I think you can also have a orange one, but I'm not sure. I'm not so much into national symbols. So
no, neither am I. But I mean, hey, Wikipedia helps me with these things.
It does.
As usual, the last question will be sent to Bjorn telepathically. Take your time. It's always a very deep, very philosophical, totally real question. Are you ready for me to send it?
Let me remove my aluminum hat.
All right, here comes the question. And there's your question. Take your time and let me know let me know the answer whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I prefer to drink it a little bit hot.
Okay, that's interesting. Why hot?
Cold tea is not that nice.
I'm probably
no.
I like cold tea. I also am probably blasphemous. I actually like cold coffee as well, though. So,
no, not my cup of tea.
I like. Nice. You're a dad.
Been training for it.
Well, congratulations. You got every answer either correct or incorrect. Good job. Unfortunately, when I went to get you that item that cannot be named, because if we name it, it disappears, someone decided to call it Ted and it just disappeared. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get that prize today. And I'm sure you would have loved it. It would have been massively helpful, but
oh well, the thought is that it counts.
Right. Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful, and thank you and Public Spaces for all that you folks do. Just getting the words out there, and I'm gonna have to talk to you folks more because the model that you have going is exactly something that I want to try and do here. And there's a million ways that we could take it, but you guys have already found a successful way, so I'll have to poke someone there.
We're happy to have you. So the conference is in Amsterdam, so we'll see you there.
Not this year. Hopefully in the future. There's so many conferences, and I'm stuck on the other side of the pond.
Well, I believe that most of our sessions that are in the I would say non-workshop tracks, like the panels and presentations. Yeah. I think they are streamed as well this year. So if you're on the other side of the pond and are not able to come over because there's no fuel anymore or other things.
Oh no, there's fuel, but only Taylor Swift is going to be able to fly anymore, I think.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we hope to have a streaming setup as well as we did previous years. So
Excellent.
you're very much welcome to join us over there.
I would do it that way. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone out there, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Remember, you matter. Your feelings matter. Whatever you're feeling today, we're all here to help get you to tomorrow. And then, this only works because of community and people trying to make it work and the energy everyone is putting into it. So thank you everyone all so much for being out there. And we'll catch you on the next Fireside Fetty. Have a great one, everyone.